Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. And as if you didn't know, I'm Renita. So in today's video, what I'm discussing is the appointments that I had during the mastectomy / reconstruction time frame. So I had 4 appointments while I was going through that recovery period. So the first appointment that I had, now remember I had my surgery back on December 8th, which was a Friday. The following Thursday, I had to go back to the oncologist because we were discussing my pathology report and chemo treatment plan. That was the plan. However, when I arrived to the appointment on December 14th, I discovered that my final pathology report results were not final. So I was like, really? I got out of bed. Now mind you, I had 2 drains on my side. So I told you how painful those drains were. I could barely lift my arms. And I had to wear a shirt that was buttoned down. I looked a hot mess, but hey, I made it in there with help, of course. But what she did do, she did have a preliminary report treatment that she shared with me. So what she did advise me on the 14th was that I already shared that I had to have lymph nodes removed with my surgery. She shared that 25, my first tier was 25 lymph nodes. 25 of my lymph nodes were removed. And this is from under my left arm. Nothing was found under my right arm. Praise God for that. But 6 of the 25 lymph nodes that were removed were positive for cancer. And she told me because my lymph nodes were removed, because that number of lymph nodes were positive for cancer, that my cancer would be treated more aggressively. She told me this is all preliminary information that she was sharing with me at this time based off the information she had, because the pathology report wasn't finalized, so she couldn't give me anything definitive. But she said that more than likely I would have a dose of 3 drugs. 2 of the drugs will be given together, which was adriamycin and Cytoxan. And they will be given to me in a period of every 2 or 3 weeks for 8 weeks. And then she said the 3rd drug will come after I finish the first 8 weeks of the other drug, the other 2 drugs I should say, and it will be 12 weeks. And then she said that will be followed by at least a minimum of 5 weeks of radiation. However, she's not the radiologist. She's just the person the oncologist, and she really just deals with the chemotherapy aspect of it. So a radiologist is going to actually be the person that tells me the definitive treatment for radiation. However, before I could even start a treatment plan, I would first have to get an echocardiogram to determine if my heart was strong enough to withstand the chemotherapy drugs, because they were considered strong drugs. Excuse me. The second thing she asked told me that it's because of the drugs. I could not have a normal IV just placed in my arm because of these drugs. These drugs could burn the skin, and they need to be, enter my system through a main vein. So I have to get a portacath installed in my arm. And those are done via the hospital, an outpatient procedure. The third thing that I had to get done was because I was having the trouble with my arms and range of motion and things, I would have to get an appointment with a lymphedema therapist to help with physical therapy for my left arm, and to discuss any possible swelling that I can have. And I could have swelling because I had a great deal of lymph nodes removed, which really, that impacts your lymphatic system all over your body. Lymph nodes are everywhere. Don't know if y'all realize it, but they are all over your body. And prior to me starting chemo, I would also have to go to a chemo teaching, which is it's a nurse who tells you about it's a nurse who tell you about the drugs and, give you a pamphlet, treatment, side effects, what's worked for other people, and pretty much tell you how to prepare for chemo, the chemotherapy treatments. So if y'all haven't done the math yet, I left that appointment, or before I even left the appointment, I was like in disbelief, because I could not, believe I counted up 5 months of chemotherapy alone. That does not include radiation, but 5 months of chemotherapy. And I was just in pure shock. I could not believe that. But hey, I don't even, I still sometimes, I'm going through chemotherapy right now, and I still cannot believe I had to endure. I'm on my 4th month. Yeah, I'm on my 4th month now, and I still can't not believe. I'm almost done. It's almost over. The countdown is on, halfway there. Just to let you know, I'm just sharing that because God has really, He has really blessed me so much. But back to, yes, I had 5 months. It's 5 months of chemotherapy. So I left out of there I didn't have a pathology report to review. I pretty much had to wait until the next appointment. So on December 14th, that was December 14th, I saw my oncologist. On the following week, I saw my surgeon who did the breast surgeon. He did the surgery to remove the tumor from my breast and the lymph nodes. And he basically, he inspected my incision. I did have some blisters on my breast from, the skin healing and things like that. He looked at those, kind of like gave me some Neosporin to kind of like baby them up a little bit. But the great thing was he actually did have my final pathology report. Thing about the surgeon is the surgeon does not tell you your stage of cancer. He can give you something, but of course he won't say it's definitive. So I had a copy of my pathology report. He went over some of the same things she actually said, but never was given a stage of cancer or said cancer stage changed. His whole thing when he's talking with you is trying to make you understand that, this is a process, and it's like almost like they break you apart to put you back together. So he always discuss about, making sure you feel like a woman and things like that. Even though I still felt like a woman. I mean, I just had, as I told my son, I shouldn't have never told him this, but this is really crazy. I told him, I'm like, I have 9-year-old girl boobs. Cause my chest went from like 38 D's to like, I have boobs now. You can see that they're definitely expanded to have more breasts than what I originally had. But when this process started, I was really flat, and it was flat, and it looked like, a girl who's about 9 years old. And like, as I was expanded week over week, the breast would, of course, get larger week over week. So one week I was like 9-year-old. And he said to me, he's like, "Mommy, you still have 9-year-old girl?" He said, "You still have 9-year-old girl boobs?" I thought it was the funniest thing. I was like, never again am I saying anything like that, because kids are sponges and they will repeat what you say. I was just laughing. I laughed at it, but it wasn't funny, but it was funny at the same time. All right. So next appointment that I had was on December 22nd. So on December 22nd, that was actually my visit to the hospital to have my portacath installed, which is the device that they use. They're basically, every time I go to chemotherapy, they will access this device to have blood, not to have blood drawn. They do not draw blood from it, but they will use this device to administer my chemotherapy drugs. And I went and got the actual book that they actually gave me about the device. But on this picture in front of me, you would see that it's a device right here, and what I'm going to do is probably try to find it on the internet and get you a picture of it so you can see it. But on this is a device that's actually inserted into your body. You choose to have it inserted in your chest, like here, up here somewhere, or you can choose to have it inserted in your arm. Of course, I chose to have it inserted in my arm, and I'm going to show it to you. You can't see because it's under my skin. However, they access this, and I bruise easily, so I do have a scar from it. I have been putting some shea butter on it, but I'm in the chemotherapy treatment where it's 12 weeks, so it's accessed every week. So I'm just to let you know that I do have it here in my left arm. If you didn't know it was there, hopefully you can see that. But this is my port under my skin that I had inserted, and my body doesn't like adhesive either, so they put they have to put adhesive on it every week to kind of like hold it down when you're getting your treatments and you have to go to the restroom and things. But my body doesn't like adhesive, so that bruises. So I worry about that skin when I'm done. For right now, it's doing what it needs to do. Get the bad cancer cells out so I can get on to feeling better. But that particular outpatient procedure, I'll tell you what happened. Actually, when I had surgery, because if you remember when I talked about reconstruction, my last tooth was removed until January 9th. So I had a tube still attached to my left side. Having surgery to get this porta cap installed. They, prepped me for surgery. They got an IV going in my hand. You are awake when the surgery is going on. But they do give you some drugs to calm you down. I cannot remember the drug that they gave me, but it made me very relaxed. They gave me something to they numbed that area. I didn't feel a thing. The funniest thing, and I call it a little funny, is they told me, they were like, so when you have this, we're going to go ahead and insert the device into you. The most important thing is you do not get this device wet. Now, I had another appointment scheduled for January 3rd, so they told me not to get it wet. Make sure I, wrap it up with plastic. Do not get the device wet. They told me that they want to cover the area and wrap it. Basically, they had me thinking it was going to be wrapped up like, I don't even know, but the long story short is they put a big white bandage just to cover that area. But they had me thinking that it was going to be wrapped up with gauze and, like protruding off my arm and everything. And it was wrapped up with a Band-Aid. I couldn't believe it. I mean, there were no stitches. The stitches, well, they were stitches. They dissolved inside. But, the funniest thing is how they told me that it was going to be wrapped up a certain way. And it really wasn't wrapped up. I thought that was the funniest thing ever. So, next appointment, and just to recap, I didn't have any issues with the porta cap, healing process or anything like that. I kept it covered with a bandage the entire time. I didn't get it wet. Maybe the bandage got a little wet sometimes from wrapping it and taking a shower, but for the most part, it stayed pretty dry. I had a next appointment on January 3rd with the oncologist, and at this point, I just knew I was going to get my final treatment plan and everything like that. You guys won't believe this, but on January 2nd, I received a phone call to say, we're going to have to reschedule your appointment because the doctor is not in. I knew that my doctor is actually a breast cancer. She's a breast cancer survivor as well. So during the holiday period, she actually had her expanders removed to have implants placed. So because she did that, I think they didn't tell me, but I just believe it was part of the healing process. She wasn't, she thought she would be ready to come back to work, but she wasn't, which was okay. Totally understandable. I say totally understandable, but I understood. I really did, but I also wanted to see that final treatment plan and things like that, like when it's going to get started and things. Now, what my appointment was rescheduled for January 10th, which was fine. 7 days later, no big deal. I didn't stress out that much. I wanted to know, of course, because I had been waiting so long, just to get a final treatment plan. But I knew I could wait. There was a purpose to it, and I accepted it. I didn't call. I didn't ask to see another doctor. I was extremely patient, so that was a good thing. Remember, January 9th, had my last tooth removed. So one thing I have to tell you, like anyone who's going through this, or you know someone who's going to go through, I don't want anyone to go through it, but someone may be watching this video because unfortunately they were diagnosed with breast cancer, or may know someone who will be diagnosed with breast cancer, because my doctor shared with me, although the national average is 1 in 8, here in South Carolina, it's actually 1 in 7 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. So unfortunately, someone will. But January 9th, final tooth removed. I found out that if you have your tube still placed, you actually can't start chemo anyway. So if a tube is in your body, you cannot start your chemo process until all your tubes is removed. Now, I was lucky enough that, it was 4 weeks, or 4 weeks, 1 day. But there are some people who have to wait 6 weeks or longer just to have those tubes removed. I know someone was 6 weeks, that's why I'm able to share that. But everybody's body is different, so you gotta keep your tubes has to be under 30 cc's before that plastic surgeon, or maybe even your surgeon, removes them. But January 10th, back to January 10th again, I did receive that final chemo treatment plan, and she confirmed that I would take the adriamycin, which is a very strong chemotherapy drug, and it will be pushed through my body, through this portacath, by the actual nurse over 10 minutes. That drug is also known as Red Devil, if you don't know. And then Cytoxin, I also will receive Cytoxin. The treatment plan for those 2 drugs is every 2 weeks for 8 weeks. So that's a total of 4 treatments of that drug. The third drug that I have to take after I finish those 2 would be, so this would be on week 10. On week 10, I would have Taxol. Taxol would be given to me over smaller doses for a longer period of time. So I have 12 treatments of Taxol every week. I go to chemotherapy every Tuesday. So that was my final treatment plan. And previously, I did the math when she told me the first time. It's 5 months of treatment. The great thing about it is I finished before my daughter's graduation. She is graduating in June, so I do finish before that. So that's a good thing. After I was given my final treatment plan, that same day I had to go and get my echocardiogram. And remember, I shared with you the echocardiogram is to determine whether or not your heart is strong to withstand the chemotherapy drugs. So I went around the corner to get the echocardiogram done, and she told me that you have to have, I have the wrong notebook, but with the echocardiogram you have to have efficiency factor of 74%, and that means you have to have at least 74% to make sure that your heart can withstand the drugs. And I may be saying that wrong, but I don't have my notebook in front of me. After I finished that, she told me, after I left, she told me my heart was strong enough. So we went ahead and went downstairs to the chemo teaching, which was the nurse who was telling me, and I shared this a little early, but the nurse went over each drug, side effects of the drugs. All right, so back to the echocardiogram. I just wanted to clarify, so I went and grabbed that notebook. But in order to make sure that your heart was strong enough, you have to have a normal ejection fraction of 74% on your echocardiogram. Now, had I been under 74%, I never asked a question as to what would happen or how would my drugs change. I never asked that question. which is a great question. Maybe I ask later. I ask on my next appointment. But that is the correct answer. 74%. I remember writing that down. But the next thing after the echocardiogram was the chemo teaching, which was we had to go downstairs to the chemo nurse. She's a nurse in the chemo area, I should say. But she gives you a book. And in this book, we basically went over everything about chemotherapy, the side effects, and how the chemo plans would go. In the next video, I'll do a little bit more detailed information on the chemotherapy drugs that I'm actually on, and how everything works. So that kind of like wraps up this video today. It's just really discussing the 4 appointments that I had during the recovery time frame that I actually had to get out for with these tubes still attached to me. But I will see you in the next video, and I'll just be talking about the chemotherapy treatment, side effects, things like that. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and please make sure you like, share, subscribe. See you in the next video.